Then we talk about disability. Disability, to me, is even more difficult because, as I always say, or as I often say, disability means different things in different contexts. And what we often hear is people that just assume disability equals incompetence, and that is not the case. And if you think about all of the different areas that your clients, all of the different parts of your clients' lives where disability means something, it starts to become overwhelming. You have the definition of disability so that you can receive services through your school district. In New York State, the education law defines disability, the entitlement to special ed services is that you have a disability which impacts the ability to learn. If you age out of the school system, or even for many individuals who you represent who are still in the school system, if they need things above and beyond what the school district provides, in many cases they can get those services through our Office of Mental Retardation and Developmental Disabilities. And all of your states have a similar state agency that provides services and advocacy for people who have developmental disabilities or other similar impairments. What is the definition of developmental disability? Well, it's a disorder of the brain and or central nervous system that limits a person's development, understanding, attention span, use of language, and ability to adapt to new situations. That's our state definition of developmental disability. You have a fact pattern here. I'm not sure. Did you touch on the fact pattern this morning already? Okay. You got Johnny Chu. Johnny Chu has an overall full-scale IQ score of 83. Our state agency says developmental disability is where you fall somewhere between 50 and 75, but our state agency also serves people with neurological impairments. What's that definition of disability? Well, that definition is if you have a disorder of the brain and or central nervous system that limits a person's development, understanding, attention span, use of language, or ability to adapt to new situations. SSI, Supplemental Security Income, what's that definition of disability? That's an income maintenance program that would be available to kids with disabilities. Many of your clients use SSI as a doorway to Medicaid coverage. Well, if the child has a mental or physical condition that very seriously limits his or her activities and is expected to last more than a year. Do they need a guardian? In New York, what's the doorway into the guardianship program? What's the definition of disability to suggest that you might have to have a guardian appointed? You have an impaired ability to understand and appreciate the nature and consequences which impair the ability to manage oneself and is permanent in nature. All of these are different definitions of disability, but if you think back to the families that you represent, the individuals that you represent, I would submit that most of them can probably fall somewhere within each of the definitions that I've just read to you. And so why is this important? You're not hired as plaintiff counsel to deal with these definitions. It may come in one factor or another, mitigating circumstances, cause and effect and things of that nature, but they're not hiring you to help them structure the rest of their lives and fit within these categories. Why is it important? I think it's important because all of these are considerations that should have some bearing on how you counsel somebody as to how they're going to take their money. If they take it in the form of a lump sum, it's going to preclude SSI eligibility. They're not receiving SSI right now. Do they fit the definition I just read for you? So do you have a burden to inform them as to the fact that they will be eligible at some point in the future, or they could be? I don't know. They don't need a guardian right now. Mom and dad are taking care of them. Well, if it's a significant amount of money, should they have one? And do you have an obligation to help guide them in that direction? I don't know. As I say, much of what I impart in a program like this is based on my own experience, personal experience, and the fact that most of my practice concentrates on helping these families negotiate their way after the fact. And these are the issues that typically come up.